Okay, now the video just now, my camera will only allow me to do 37 minutes, and so what's happened, it cuts short. So anytime you see a video of mine cut short, just go back into my channel, and the second part will be there, or the ending or whatever will be there. So always do that, okay? So anyway, so as I was saying, they put it in the newspaper, and I was in every newspaper, all the news channels, and they wrote that passers-by said I look like a right mug, and I think they put this in to hurt me, because I was in the game, and I think another reason was because of the office I'd done. They didn't really want other people to realise that all these offices have that amount of cash and with little security around. So I think they also done it to try and put people off from doing that again, like that job, So anyway, they put that on the door, and then one of the flying squad officers came out, and he took me outside, and he said, look, Fish, we know you got others involved. Look, there's no cameras or microphones here. Do you come and give us the boys, please? And but in my head, all areas of the police station is microphone and the camera. So I said to this officer, look, I love you and I respect you, but come on, I've given you everything. But for me to hand my boys to you is like giving the English to the Germans, And he said, look, Fish, you're going to do a long time, kid. And I said to him, you know what? I'd rather do 15 years in hell and come up with my head held high than 5 years in paradise and never be able to look at my people or friends again. Okay? And do you know what he'd done here? And I couldn't believe it. I was in shock. And he grabbed my hand. He said, you know what, Fish? You're a man of valour. I was like that. I thought I was going to receive the Victoria Cross. I mean, for me, being in the game and having a flying squad officer say that to me, that was like receiving the Victoria Cross. And that was respect, and it elevated me, in my mind, well done. And I think because he knew I wouldn't hurt the public, and he knew I wouldn't hurt the police, and I think he knew it was a game to me, and he realised he knew I would never use the gun or point at anyone who didn't deserve it. You know what I'm saying? And that is why he said I was a man of valour, and I wouldn't grasp him, because you see, you have to realise flying squad officers and the police also are criminals. They're criminals or turn into criminals. And so them too, they're also at it. When they nick loads of gear, they take a bit out for themselves, or they might do this. So they don't like grasses. So when people think, oh yeah, police are like me because I'm grassing, they don't. Do you understand? So anyway, I went in the cell overnight. And then they decided to take me to Wimbledon Court, which I thought was a bit strange, because from Hammersmith you go to West London Court. And so what you have to understand is the judicial system is kind of a game kind of thing. Like, it's organised in such a way, it's not as fair as you think. And so flying squad, they have their own courts. So when they take you to that court, the judge knows that, the way they talk to the, he's got to go away. He's in the game. He's proper. And so they took me to Wimbledon Court, but they took me to Lexus, and they said to me, "Oh, we're not going to put you in a prison van because your boys might try and get you out." Elevating me on a level which I'm not on. But hey, I'll take it. Crash, how's your fault? Yeah, so sorry. I do apologise once again. So so I'm in this Lexus, and what you got to understand about flying school, when you're in the game in nothing flying, they give you a handler, you know, and so if anything goes wrong, then that handler, you know, you get Nick to say, here, come and see you, and here, question you, regardless of whatever it's about. If there's anything you're involved, he will come. You know? And so, but they're also dressed like us, the normal, the public. I mean, one of the beards looked like he'd been on it all night, out drinking, Foster's t-shirt, the gun was on the hip. I mean, one was in a suit like me, and the other one was just casually, you know, they're in class, all well spoken. And so I'm in the back with the one with the Foster's t-shirt, and he's got the gun now. We're at Hammersmith, and on Fulham Palace Road, it's so busy, packed with traffic, 8 o'clock in the morning. And so I said to the woman, I looked at the gun, I said, you want it? And he went, oh yeah, yeah, gangster. And so I'm handcuffed in the back, and I look at the traffic, and I go, here you go. We could have the siren, the side light. Yeah, let's do this properly. And so the officer next to me, fire squad officer, he says, here, Gov, do you think we could have the light on, yeah? And the guy goes, yeah, fish, yeah, alright, let's do it. So we put the light on, I'm in the back of this police car, Lexus, gold. I'm going, yeah, gangsters, how you lot gangsters in the game? Oh, and they go, first go, and I go, no, you lot G's, you're G's. So we're zooming in and out of the traffic in this car, I'm loving it, like, this is just, on it, you know what I mean? Normally you're in a prison van and you can't move, howling like that. Police officer putting food under the door because you can't, or cigarette because you know, when that door's shut they don't open it. And I was in this Lexus with the flying squad, and you know, we're zooming in and out of traffic. I'm like, yeah, this is gangster, I like this in the game. And so I got to Wimbledon, Magistrates Court, and the judge said, I got to hand it to you, Mr. Fish, a well-organised plan. If not the fact that you had got caught, we would have been none the wiser. And so I was like, yeah, number one, salute. So he gave me, so he reminded me to go to Isleworth. And so be reminded, and I go to Wandsworth prison. And Wandsworth prison, I first went into Wandsworth prison in 1986, and I didn't have a job. This time, yeah, I was fine then, but I was a straight guy. I was going to work, and that's what people don't realise. The kids today, they don't realise. You know, they're so busy listening to rap and music and all that, and then they're not communicating, and Facebook, social media. You know, they're using Facebook, social media, and Snapchat, but they're communicating with somebody, but they're not communicating with people except within their own circle. Now, kids, it's very important to learn that you need to work, because you need to understand how the public work, how the public think. You need to understand about organisation, timekeeping. Yeah, you need to understand how to talk to people, you know, and to gain a work ethic. Yeah, so it's very important. Work is a very important part, and if you don't work from young, then you know when you play this game, it's going to be very, very difficult for you, because you have to be organised. You have to know how to organise, put things together, you know, create damage limitations, sort of problems arise. Work's very, very important. Very important. And I'll tell you one other thing about the game. You know, when people say villains, gangsters, criminality, or whatever, most people that I know who are successful, mate, are normal, hard-working people. Yeah, crash, that's it. And when you do talk about villains and gangsters and all this, very many of them, including myself, they're all skint. They're all, or they've been arrested because they've been in the game too long. And if you get arrested for a crime now, you have to face a confiscation order. And yeah, may take your house, they may take your car, you know, and then, you know, your kids are now without a home, your wife's without a husband and a home. You know, the kids have lost all their presents, all their goods, and their property. Listen, you have to really, you know, now when you're in the game, you've got to start taking these things into consideration. You know, you really do have to realise what you are going to lose. You know. So anyway, I got into Wandsworth and I started in '86, and I wasn't in the game. And as I said in my earlier podcast, you know, I was just frightened walking the landings. But it was slop out back then, you know, and it was different then. And Wandsworth then was slop out, and they had a star in the middle. And this star, if you got on the centre, you could signal right, because this star in the centre, you could see all the wings. But if you walk round the star this way or that, by the side, you can't signal a whole right. Do you understand? So if you ever walked on that, anyone's been to Wandsworth in the old days, crap like that, listen. Anyone who has been to Wandsworth in the old days will tell you, if you walked on that star, listen, stop it now, it's all over crap, yeah. You walk on that star, listen, they came at you, you know, them up the cat, and they put you on that floor. Oh, mate, sit and, you know, we used to feel sorry for anybody who hadn't been to Wandsworth before, didn't know. They walked that star, next to it on the floor, the property's gone everywhere. You're like, what's going on? What have I done? You know? And so, and you have to remember, prison officers them days were all, many of them were ex-army, ex-forces, or, you know, ex-policemen. They were regimental, you know, and they were, you know, upright, all fit, all solid, all lean, you know, they was all had their caps on, their uniform, and that, you know, in them days, not like today, prison officers stuck together through fit. Listen, they were on it. There was none of this like today. Yeah, you know, the whistle goes and there, you know, some officers would come, some won't, or you know, bringing in gear and all that. Listen, there was none of that. It was us and them, and they were on it. You know, you have to remember back in 1986, Wandsworth Prison was the flagship of prisons. It was the Prison Officers Association's headquarters. Wandsworth took no shit. They listen. It was a prison, but not just a prison. Everything was disciplined and marked properly. They ruled it, and that was it. They were lean. They all, as I mentioned before, 2 inches, all upright. They're flat caps, on it, lean, 6'2", 6'3". There was only 5'8" and fat. They were all Terminators, all machines. Yeah, and after the normal wing staff, you had the discipline staff. And the discipline staff, the block staff, they had hats, but the hats were the peak was down across their eye like that, like the sergeant major. So you know when you see a sergeant major in the army and his hat is down, or a master of discipline, that was how the block screws were. And the block screws were, listen, the normal prison officers, believe me, yeah, all except they were fit, all sturdy, all could row. You know, they would take their hat off if there was a problem with it, and they would go, come on, let's go and sell. They would row, they could, listen, they would have a row. Yeah. But see these block officers, they were built like Rottweilers. Hench, short, stocky. And they weren't having a bar of it, none of it. They was on, do you know what I mean? And down that block, listen, you misbehave, it was on, yeah? And so, everyone was, the problem was, back then, it's not like in today's society, you know? We all come from nothing, didn't we? We had nothing, you know? And so, a great many deal of the prisoners, Ray Hill, Frankie Fraser, the Fraser, all of them, very many prisoners, they could all fight because that's how we grew up on the street. We were fighters, yeah, and so they could fight. So the prisoners had to be like that. You know, I mean, you know, we could take a hiding as well, and so you know they knew that, and so they had to, you know, they had to meet fire with fire, and believe me, they did meet it. You know. You know, but there were occasions when that whistle got blown. I mean, I used to call it a train because the floorboards, I think, are made of wood, and when they come, it added to the fear. They would crack it, and if you got in the way of them running to a situation, they'd pick you up and take you too. You know what I mean? Because when that whistle blew, everyone knew they had to stand back to let the officers get to the situation and deal with it. And so if you was in the way, yeah, you were getting it as well. And so Wandsworth was the place. It was, you know, you learned, you knew, you know, like, you know, you mess about, you knew it was kicking right off. You knew you and them was fighting, you know, and you was getting mouthy to some of these officers. You knew one of them came out, hold that, one officer wait outside, and they would have it toe to toe. Listen, it was class. And so we also had slop out. And slop out where you just shit and piss. There was no toilets. And so you used to shit and piss in the potty, keep it in your cell overnight. And then empty it out in the slop out area. Yeah. So you'd all come out in the morning, unlock. So first of all, you'd hear the principal officer, he was called, and they go, unlock! And then that was a signal to all the officers that all the prisoners that were supposed to be present and correct were present and correct, and now we were going to unlock them to let them get rid of their shit and piss in the slop out area, and then go back to their cells. And so we opened the cell. And it was funny, just by pure coincidence, and I always say this, you know, with Frankie Fraser. I never knew who Frankie Fraser was. This time I was just a pin. I didn't know who he was, and I didn't know who I was next to or nothing. And I just used to walk past him. I never spoke to him. I didn't know. Because I didn't know who he was. I wasn't in the game. I was just a normal citizen, being at work, and I'd been put there because a woman slapped me in my face. I slapped her back, and the racist system, judged as it was for a slap, gave me 21 months. That was it. Yeah, but I was hard working and doing well. So Crash, when we were slopping out, I'm always polite, this is what I'm telling you. And I used to say, the prison officer, he used to always stand outside the slop out area. And this officer, I think, was relatively new, but he was called Mr. Apps. And as I used to come out every morning, he would be standing there. I said, good morning to you, sir. He said, good morning, Fish. And as I go and I slop out, wash the potty out, and go back to my cell. So every day I used to say good morning. And then one day, Mr. App said, Fish? And I said, yes, sir. He said, I don't understand. I said, what's that, sir? He said, every morning you come out your cell, you have a smile on your face, you say good morning to me, you go and slop out, you go back to your cell and bang the door. He said, I don't understand. Why are you always respectful, happy? I said, well, sir, it's all about the 2 R's, sir. He said, the 2 R's, Fish? I said, yes, sir. He said, what's the 2 R's? I do find life funny sometimes. I said, the 2 R's, sir, is you're one day nearer to retirement and I'm one day nearer to release. So we'll both be free. And he looked at me and he smiled. He said, yeah, bro, Fish, well done. Go on, you know, and Frankie Fraser saw this. And he called me, and like I said, I don't know who it was. He called me and said, "Come here, son." I went, "Yes, yes." He said, "No, you're not in trouble." He said, "I like you. I like the way you conduct yourself with the screws." And I think he could see it was all new to me, you know. But I don't know, he saw something in me which maybe he knew, like, you know, so he decided to take me under his wing and show me the game. And, you know, for me that was massive. And I know very many people put him down, have bad things to say about him, do this, but then they can say that about me, and it's life, isn't it? But I can only go on what happened between me and him at that time, and I can only respect and love him for that. And as I said, Frankie was notorious, because I think at that time Frankie got a 5-year sentence, but ended up doing 20 or something like that. And I knew he's got his son as well, but I can't remember if it was at the time when him and his son got arrested for the Kruger gangs like that. I can't remember, but he took me into his cell, and all he had in his cell was a bed, a Roberts radio. Now, the reason I say a Roberts radio, you have to realise, a radio, to have a radio in prison in 1986, listen, you had to be the rich, you had to be, you know, wealthy or in the game, you know. You know, some people had silly resistors, but a Roberts was considered the class, the gem, you know. And it was bare, the cell was spotless, clean. There was nothing on the notice board. In a cell, you always get a picture board where you can hang your pictures. Nothing there, no pictures, not anything at all. There was his table, his chair, and that was it. I didn't see any property or nothing. And he said to me, he said, "Let me explain to you now, Fish, how to do bird." So I said, "All right." Remember, I still don't know who he is. I didn't have a clue. And he said, "Look, the first thing to learn, okay, always keep your cell clean and spotless. Okay, always." Okay. So I said, "Okay, yeah, no problem." He said, "Secondly, never ever put your property or letters and photographs on show. Always put them in a box and put them under the bed." So I thought, why? He goes, "Well, that way, if a prison officer, when you have a tear-up in a fight, when you have a fight or a tear-up in prison and it's bad and you have to go down the block, the prison staff would pack your kit after. And if you had been bad to them or hurt one of the staff and it was a naughty bit of a fight or whatever, they would rip your letters up, rip everything up, stuff everything in there, rip your clothes." Listen, they was on it, you know. And so he said, never ever do that. And today it's quite funny because you go in cells and they have all the pictures and everything on and mobile phones and that. But the problem with that is people see your wife, your girlfriend, your kids, and then they start getting into you, and then they get into them, and then they maybe chat your wife up, chat your girlfriend up, and then next minute they're going out. It causes a lot of problem. So you always have to protect yourself like that. Okay. And then he said, you know, the only thing having is a radio, nothing else. Okay. And so that always stuck with me, you know. And even though I'd done 21, I never ever knew who Frankie Fraser was. I saw him go around. We always spoke, and I always said hello. And you know, if I had to go and get him a cup of tea or something, I'd always be like that because that was me. You know, he was a man, respectful. He helped me. I didn't really know anyone in the prison. I wasn't in the game, but I knew he was of some importance or some stature because back in Wandsworth in 1986. There were 3 circles, so there was an inner circle, an outer, and then an out circle. And all the normal prisoners like me who were nobodies, we all had to march. We marched on the outside of the circle, the main, and you always had to walk in the right direction. Yeah. Then in the second outer circle, you had like people half known in the game, or well, you know, half known, like, you know, up there, not like the normal, but who they were in the villainry, you know, they all knew each other, they were ducking and dive, you know. And then you had Lenny McLean, Frankie Fraser. I can't remember. There was a big guy used to walk. I'm sure it was Lenny. Frankie used to walk with this big guy, and it was a small circle, and they would walk. They had the small circle, and that was like you know, like Roy, you know. They were the heads. You know what I'm trying to say. But I didn't know that. I just knew he was important because, like I said, the way everyone treated him and bowed down to him, and you know, and even the Scrooge not even he had that kind of relationship. It wasn't such a great relationship, but they had a kind of neutral relationship of respect, if you know what I mean. So you know, he taught me that, and it stayed with me all the way through. So anyway, when I got to Wandsworth on this sentence for the IPP, for the Great Tranny Robbery, what I noticed was, what I didn't notice was, what I should have noticed but didn't notice because I don't give a shit, the prison had changed. And what I didn't know, I didn't realise that the Muslims had taken control. They're not black or white, they're just Muslims, and they come together, they start in prison, they're a force. And respect to them, you know, respect to them, they do what they got to do. And so, Crash, but me, yeah, because you know, when I'm in prison, everyone will tell you, yeah, and if I'm always kind of neutral, because that's me, you know, being gay and black, I've seen all the injustice, I've seen all the, so for me, I always like to be a peacekeeper, and I hate people seeing people get hurt, and I hate, you know, people, if they do, you know, people call me. And one incident was, there was a guy once who had stabbed this guy's brother in a nightclub in Olympia, I believe, and his brother was with the guy who had died. His brother was with quite a few lads from Ladbroke Grove, and this guy was from Fulham, came into the prison, and one day whilst on association, they have seen him and they've started beating him up with cues, Snoop Paul, they're stamping all and they're jumping all over him. So I've seen it, but the officers now are there, but they're shit, and these boys are going at this guy as if to kill him. And so I've seen this, so I've run over and I've laid on the geezer that he's pissed himself and everything. I've laid on him, I've gone, oh, easy, stop, what you doing? And they're looking at me and I'm going, listen, it's me, boys, it's me, yeah? And what I had to say to them after is, hold on, gentlemen, you're already in prison, and you want to kill this guy in front of prison officers and get a life sentence. And now, when you kill someone in prison, it's different from killing on the street because you're already in prison, so you should know better. So that sentence, listen, it's worrying. And so they all look at me, but you know, I said everyone knows the fish. I can fight, I can row, but you know, like I only wait until you bring it to me. And so they said, all right then. Like I said, come on, boy, you're going to end up dead. Come on, don't be stupid. I know what you've done, but this, you don't want to do life for this. And so they listened. And then the screws came and they took him away. And then the SO called me and he said, look, Fish, I think we got a nick. I said, look, I explained to him the situation. I said, look, stop. They didn't kill the geezer, and they ain't done nothing wrong. The staff said, come on, Gov. I mean, he's killed his brother, Gov. Come on. And so the SO said, all right, we'll leave it at that. There you go, that's what you have to do. Right, as you know, with my camera, it can only do 30 minutes, so it's about to come to the end now. Always remember, whenever a story just cuts off or it's short, always remember the end I will go back into my YouTube and there will be part 2. So when it cuts short, don't just go, oh, yeah, it's short. Always go back in and there'll be the part 2 there. So this is part 2. So what I'm going to do now, you've had 2 uploads from me today, so I'm going to continue this tomorrow. So you've got one that I've just done. This is the follow-up, okay? So always remember that any video I do, if it cuts short, there is at the end, even if it's 30, at the end will be there. Because I don't edit, I just do it raw. So don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to keep the show alive. Remember where you saw me first. Remember who you saw me last. I wish all of you lots of respect and love, and I hope all your lives are great. And I hope everyone learns from my story. You know, I ain't no one special. I'm just telling you what happened to me in my life. It was my birthday last week. Yeah, getting old, but I'm just telling you what happened in my life. So I wish all of you a good evening. You had part 1 and 2. Part 3 I'll do tomorrow. Ha!